Hello and welcome to the third in a series of short videos that show various tips and techniques on useful features that you can use in QGIS to help you with your biodiversity net gain assessments. In the first one, I showed how you can easily generate area and length calculations that update themselves as you go along, and in the second one I showed how you can use drop-down lists to sort of keep your data in sort of a logical, clear fashion. And this third one shows basically a beginnings on how you can use SQL language to analyze your data. It's likely to be a bit waffly in places. It's a whole programming language that I'm not particularly familiar with, but it shows how you can go about using QGIS to look at data in the first instances, and it's something that I suppose once you've had an introduction to it you're going to have to learn yourself a bit, but it's nothing too tricky. So SQL stands for structured query language. Sorry, because I'm working with maps, I think spatial structured query language. I believe you can also call it squirrel, but personally I just think as an ecologist calling it squirrel language just mean it's just a bit too much. Yeah, I've already prepared a sort of example for us. I thought the previous examples at Old Trafford might look a little bit simplistic, so I decided that, let's just zoom to that layer. Let's imagine that some years in the future someone has decided to do a rather extensive habitat creation project over an area of central London. This is the Canary Wharf area, so the financial heartland of London, and for no particular reason we've got a load of areas of scrub and woodland and amenity grassland. I've used phase 1 mapping colours because it's just, I think, what everyone's used to at the moment. So this is our picture of habitats, and I'll look at the attribute table for those, and as you can see I've got a load of habitats in there. I'll order them by reference. I've included a reference column here, a value column which is the phase 1 habitat value, and the relevant biodiversity net gain habitat there. I've included the condition assessments for them, and as we did earlier, a area calculation for each of those habitats. Just to remind you, if you wanted to work out what the formula was that you'd used previously to gain those, you can quickly double click on the layer itself, take yourself to the Fields tab, and then by clicking on the formula thing there, you can make sure what the formula that you've used to get that area calculation is. So, back to this. I actually don't know why the ref and the value columns have moved around. I'm pretty sure I had them the other way about. It doesn't really matter. What I've tried to show, if I can get it all up on one screen, is, say for example you had a load of scrub here. That's not right, is it? I'll just it's only an example, so it doesn't matter. There we go. So, highlighted the areas of scrub that are present here, and say that you've got 3 separate areas of scrub habitat, but they're all the same pretty much, and you don't want to define them all as separate areas. The technique I'm going to show you will add the hectareage of all areas given the same reference value. If they were different habitat types, I'm going to change that to amenity grassland again. You'll have to apologise, it's very unprofessional. So the way that we're going to learn it, all the amenity grassland habitats will be added up together. You won't pay any attention to condition in this instance. You'd have to do a slightly longer workaround to get to that. It's just an example to show you what's possible. Of course, if you wanted to, you could simply copy all this data, plonk it straight in a spreadsheet, paste it without the, there we go, and analyze it just in Excel if that's what you're happy to do. At the place where I work, your app consultant Ecologists Limited, some of our team prefer working in Excel, and some of us, including me, pal Luke Atherton, who has helped work out some of these SQL queries, prefer using SQL where we can. It's just another tool to use. So coming out of the attribute table, what we're going to do, we are going to analyze the values in our habitat layer using the SQL database. So we're going to click on database. So far so sensible. Database manager, and then we just get a blank screen, which is a bit bewildering. If we click on this arrow here next to virtual layers and then click on project layers, so all the layers in our project drop down there, and then click on this little spanner with some words behind it icon, SQL window, that's what we want. It'll bring up the database query editor, and because my short-term memory is as poor as my short-term memory is, I'm going to just align the windows so I can see the name of the layer that I'm working on, which is there, and the name of each column that we're going to use there. So now we need to start typing into this window here to create our SQL query. I could have just done it with one that I'd already saved and say you'd work it out yourself, but I'm going to try and type it out fresh because I'm assuming that something will go wrong, and I think that's probably better for the learning process. It can be quite fiddly, SQL queries, but the good thing is once you've got one that works for you, you can save it and hopefully you know which bits to change to make it fit whatever you're trying to do with it later. So first up, type the word select. Every SQL query that I know how to do starts with the word select. There might be other words that you use for other sorts of things with SQL. I don't know. You always type the word select in. And then I've pressed enter, and now I am going to fill in the columns that I want my table to have in. So I am going to group each polygon by the reference figure that I've given it, and then I'm going to make a column that shows the phase 1 habitat value, a column that shows the biodiversity net gain habitat, the condition assessment, and then finally the sum of all the areas within that layer that have that reference value. So first up, we're going to type the word ref, tell QGIS that the word ref that we're looking for is a field value or column heading there. We're going to put it in quotation marks. Next, say that the next thing that we type is going to be in the next column. I'm going to put a comma, and then we don't have to. I'm going to press enter because it just keeps things neat. The query will work whether things are on the same line or on separate lines, but it just gets confusing if you don't put them on separate lines. For me, I get easily confused. So next we're going to have the phase 1 habitat value. So quotation marks to let QGIS know that we're talking about a field value. Type it in, and the quotation mark, stick in a comma, and excellent. Next one, dead simple as well. Quotation mark, biodiversity net gain, underscore hab. If you make the slightest spelling error on any of these, it'll all just beggar up. There's no way around that. Comma, and now condition, comma, and then our last column. Now in this one we want to do something a little bit different. If we just typed in hectares to 2 decimal places, it would simply give us the first value in there that it came across and not give us the value of all the habitats, sorry, all the areas of habitat with that reference in it. So instead we're going to do a sum function, which is similar to Excel. Sum. Now because we've made that a function, we're going to have to call that column title something else, otherwise the computer will be unhappy. So we're going to type the words as, quotation marks again, and let's call it total underscore area. I mean, we can call it whatever we like, but that's sensible, isn't it? Then, because this is going to be our last column, we don't put a comma in there. I'll show you in a bit. If you put a comma in there, the whole thing will break. So we need to tell the computer which layer we are getting these values from. So from, I think that's quite good. And then the layer that we're using is habitats underscore 1. And then because we are using this column to group the values by, I'm going to type group by ref, and then let's just see if that works. Stone the crows, it did. So I press the execute button. The result has come out here. As you can see, there's only one instance of each of the reference values I've given. The value correlates and the total area. I don't know where that's come from, but it's summed all the areas in there for us. That's grand, and I think that's possibly a faster way of doing about it than Excel once you're used to this system. There's other little things that we can do with our code now, should we wish. So when I copy and paste this, I might want to change those column titles. So let's do that. Let's change the column title for ref to habitat reference. We'll change the value to phase 1 habitat value. I'm going to change Biodiversity Net Gain habitat to Biodiversity Net Gain habitat value. Addition to, forgot to put the as in. Well, that, thinking what on earth am I going to call this? Condition assessment result. And then execute. It's renamed all our column titles for us. So that's awfully nice. So what other fun things can we do? Let's say we wanted to show this table with the greatest total area at the top and the smallest total area at the bottom. So in other words, we'd be ordering the table. Use the order by. So let's order by total underscore area, and then two different ways you can order. You can have our things going up or going down. are ascending or descending. So ask is the little code for ascending. To show the other one, no, let's just do that. And then you can see it's put the biggest at the bottom and the smallest at the top. Pop that around. And there we are. Now, it's not going to really work with the table as we've got it, but if you wanted to order something by, say, the total area and then the alphabetical order of the habitat reference, then you could always add another value here. And you can carry on and make things order as many ways as you want. So another cool thing we can do is load as new layer. So once you've made your table and you're happy with it, you can then save it in QGIS as a layer, which is a nice way of, if you've got several people working on a project, then that's a good way of just like fixing things in a date and stuff. So I've clicked on load as new layer, I've ignored all this and just clicked load to make this small, that small, and there we have a new little layer that's popped up called query layer. And if we look at the attributes of that, it's essentially the table that we made. So if you've done it once, you don't need to do it again, and you can rename that to something useful. So like PR areas calc and the date. Another useful thing, you've made a query like this, you don't have to write it out from scratch every single time. You can save it, so you put a name here, area calculations, save, and then you can just bring that up whenever you want it. You can also look at your query history and that will show the last few that you've done. Once you have got this, you can also copy and paste it into Excel, or if you're feeling like you've got it perfect, you can copy and paste it into Word, and then convert it to a table, provided that the separate text at tabs thing is shown. That's a fairly quick way of getting stuff into Word and making reports and stuff. So a few things to be aware of. If you were to use these calculations and any of the font titles were different, you just have to change what they were called there. If the layer name was different, you just have to change what it was called there. I'll show you that thing with a comma because I promised it and then didn't deliver. It comes up with an error message. It's actually worth reading this. Normally if you scroll along to the far end, it tells you where the error is. So it searched through the whole thing, got confused near the word from. See, near the word from. Alright, yeah. There we go. And then I'm going out on a limb. I should show you that spaces that we put in were purely for our benefit so we could read it more easily. And then let's try one last thing. Eagle-eyed amongst you may have noticed that I had an area of amenity grassland with a moderate condition and areas of amenity grassland with a poor condition, and it's just added them all together because it has added them all just based on the reference. If we wanted to create a table which grouped things not by this, the reference, but by the reference and the condition. And we can do that. We just need to add a bunch more code in, which is all very doable. But we're going to use another function, and I'm going to make another column for it in the hope that I don't get confused. So some of you may be aware there's a function in Excel called Concatenate. Not a word I've ever come across outside of Excel and things like that. But what it does, it means add these strings of letters and words and numbers together. So the equivalent to concatenate in Excel is concap. I'm going to concap ref. I'm going to add a little space in. So add any text you like in a concat thing. You add a single quotation mark. Finish the single quotation. Stick in another comma. And we want condition. I'll call that as new ref. And then we're going to group by new ref. And we're going to order by new ref. And then there should be two amenity grassland rows. One with amenity grassland poor, one with amenity grassland moderate. And it's not added those. So that just shows some of the ways you can play with your data in SQL query language. I've had to edit this a bit because it's gone wrong in ways that were just confusing. But it's about playing with it and seeing what it can do for you. I mean, we use it to help summarize locally designated sites, to help organize data that we've got from local record centres, or if there's loads of ponds in and around a site, it's handy. I think, yeah, give it a whirl. Give it a whirl. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed these 3 short videos on things that can be helpful when using QGIS for Biodiversity Net Gain. As I said, if you've found them useful at all, please let other people know who might want to know how to do these things. If you could make if you use it in your professional work and capacity, then please make a donation to a wildlife charity of your choice. I am in the mood for picking up the Bat Conservation Trust and Bug Life at the moment. And yeah, thank you very much. I think I might make some more videos for various other things that are just useful when doing ecological work with QGIS in the future, but we'll see how we go. Okay, thanks very much. Take care. Bye.